Hey folks, Poverty Point Customs here. Well, this is my FF Industrial FF15 mini excavator. So this has the 13.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton 420cc engine. So what we're going to do today is an oil change. We're going to use Mobil 1 10W30. We're going to swap out the Chinese grease fittings with a standard grease fitting. Then a few videos down the road, we're going to replace the hydraulic fluid. Takes approximately 15 liters. We're actually going to drain out all the gas in the fuel tank and put fresh gas in. So what you're going to want to do first is warm up your engine. So we're going to let it run for a couple minutes. Alright, so the motor's been running for a couple minutes, so we're going to expose the engine area. Open up the back. Alright, so once you open it up, there's your dipstick. That's where you're going to add your oil, and there's your oil drain right there. That's a 12 millimeter. Now, as you can see with the drain plug, when you do drain it, it's just going to drain on the metal surface right in front of it. So what you can do is raise the front blade, tipping the excavator backwards, and it's raised just like that. So when you're draining the oil is going to be actually going downhill right into the little bucket. And it's going to look just like that. I have some paper towels down there in case it does drip a little further out instead of right into it. Now I do have an oil extractor that I can suck the oil out of the dipstick too, but this being the first oil change, I want to make sure we get every last drop out of there in case there's any metal filings. So we're going to take the drain bolt off and unscrew the dipstick. It will allow it to drain easier. Alright, once it's done draining, you reinstall the drain plug. The hardest part is actually getting this out from this tight area. So I got it out a little bit, just draining into my drain pan. Just taking a look at the oil though, it actually looks perfect. I don't see any little sparkly silver parts in it, so it's nice to see that with the Briggs & Stratton motor. Alright, now that the oil's drained, you want to drop your front blade to get it level. Alright, so we want to put our funnel in. And in little tight areas like that, I find the easiest way to add oil and know the exact amount that I'm putting in is by using a measuring cup. So we'll fill that with oil. Alright, so we're going to start off with 550 mils. It goes in quite slowly. And you want it so it's just at about the bottom of the threads there. So we'll check it with the dipstick. There we go, that's perfect. And screw your dipstick in nice and tight. And I'll check this probably every half hour or so of use, especially with the initial break-in period of the engine. So just clean up any excess oil that may have dripped when you drained it. And again, also, I'll let this run for a minute or so and then double check the oil. And if it needs a little more, I'll top it up if required. What I'm going to do next is drain whatever gas is in the gas tank and make sure there's fresh gas in it. So I actually did a video on this fluid transfer pump if you want to check that out. So what we're going to do is drain all the gas in the gas tank and we'll take a look at it and see what condition it's in. Alright, you can see that is disgusting. Now I'm not sure if this is gas that was put in it in China or the Ritchie brothers had added some gas, but it certainly doesn't look like clean fuel. So we're going to make sure the entire tank's drained and we're going to put fresh fuel in it. Alright, those gas jugs suck. So we're going to use a fuel transfer pump again. You can see the difference in the color of that fuel compared to the fuel I took out. Now that could have been a little bit of rust in the tank, but there shouldn't be much being a brand new unit. Now because it's late in the season, I'm going to be putting some fuel stabilizer in it because this isn't going to get very much use between now and the springtime. So what we're going to do next is swap out these Chinese grease fittings. It's the one where you push the pin in and grease it. We're going to swap them out with the generic ones we'd use in Canada and the States. That way you're not using two different grease gun tips to grease your machine. So I have a grease fitting kit that I purchased off Amazon. So we're going to use a straight M8 grease fittings. Those are these ones here. You can see what the Chinese ones look like. So we're going to take these and we're going to unscrew these and replace them with the new ones. And I would say with this machine, it's kind of 50-50. They're half standard grease fittings compared to these other ones here. They're a 10 millimeter. Be a 9 millimeter. Now you're going to have two grease fittings here, one for your swing and your bearing. So what you're going to want to do is grease these a little bit, rotate your excavator a little, grease it more. That way you want to get an even amount of grease around the sprocket on the excavator as well as the bearing. So you're going to end up greasing these probably half a dozen times while you're swinging it around. And when you take a look underneath, you can see the grease there. So you want to make sure that this is even throughout around your sprocket there. That's why you're going to rotate it. Now for your front blade, you're going to have 4 grease points there as well as right there. And on your hydraulic cylinder, we're going to replace that with the standard fitting as well as at the top. So we'll get those replaced and all greased. One thing I also checked was all my existing grease fittings. Pretty much every single one of them were loose, so go through and double check to make sure they're all nice and tight. As well, it's a good time to check all your nuts and bolts, as well as your hydraulic fittings. This one here was actually a little bit loose and had a little bit of seepage underneath of it. So check all your lines on your boom stick, all down there and whatnot. And again, it's not going to be in this video, but later on down the road, always check your hydraulic fluid level. This is right in the middle, so that's perfect. And you check it from the access door. There's your hydraulic tank, your fill. I do like the little window though, it makes it easy and quick to check. And I did run this for a couple minutes and check the oil, and it's at the perfect level. Just want to point out too, that's the location of your air filter if you want to check it. It is going to be a very tight squeeze to get that off. I would say you're probably going to have to take off your ROPS bar as well as the top cover to check your air filter. Like always, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you post them below. I enjoy reading them. And this again was purchased through the Ritchie Brothers auction. So stay tuned, I'm looking at a few other items out there, so we'll see what ends up in the garage here. Don't forget about old John Deere over in the corner. I use that almost every single day. And there are times we have about a dozen or so in the backyard sound asleep. They're super friendly, almost too friendly in our area. Hey. Well, on to the next project. my luck putting this away, and this is why you check over every nut and bolt on these. As you can see right there, the bolt came out and it's actually sitting right there, so I got to fish that out and put it back in there. So again, check over every nut and bolt on these machines. And popped off all the bolts around there, and allows you a little access underneath. As you can see, there's your controls, your valve body. There is a hydraulic filter down in the corner. I'll have to see if you can source replacements of those down the road. So I was able to put a nut washer on that and a bolt. The only thing is you can't snug it down too tight because it is on a pivot point here. So if you snug it down too tight, you're not actually going to be able to move your control there. Let's just remember that. Anyways, little bonus clip. Thanks for watching.